Since the Cook report on cot deaths and how antimony was and still is, Point has done little but attempt to shoot the messenger.
I've heard them saying has frightened a lot of mothers and fathers in this country. It's not the programme that's frightened people, it's the fact that the government hasn't got an answer for the question that you rightly have put before them.
Tonight, we'll have more questions for the government. We've carried out the first tests on living babies to see if they too are at risk from antimony.
The gases produced are 100 times more toxic than hydrogen cyanide. Your baby has the highest reading that's been found.
They shut down the nervous system, which controls the heart.
There's a killer on the loose. It's called cot death.
If you can take it to the doctor, if you're not sure, take it to the doctor and get it checked out, which I think would be best.
Some of the 60,000 free phone calls made to us by concerned parents after our first report.
You have to get a mattress which is free from phosphorus, arsenic and antimony.
They all got advice and a fact sheet, and they nearly all asked the same question: is my baby being affected now?
The hypothesis that cot deaths are caused by materials in mattresses has been around for about 5 years, but it hasn't been recognised because there have been no attempts to properly confirm it. The tests that you have commissioned have confirmed without a doubt that babies were poisoned by materials in mattresses and that they are still being poisoned today.
Most manufacturers have now withdrawn antimony-treated mattresses. Indeed, they'd never wanted to make them in the first place.
We understood that the fire retardant regulations would not include nursery products. The government then did a U-turn and included them in the scope of the regulations, much to our annoyance because we lobbied very hard to have them excluded.
How are you?
Tonight, we're giving these babies in Oxford and these children in Derby a haircut. Antimony is secreted from the body in hair and fingernails.
Your baby has 17,000, which is the highest reading that's been found.
Cookson's factory in Newcastle, Britain's major supplier of antimony for fire retardants, including those in babies' mattresses. Before safety procedures were improved, there had been 45 deaths at the factory from cancer and lung diseases. They'd had no government guidance on how dangerous antimony would be for their workers or for Britain's babies. "60-year-old Norman Hall was a Cookson's cleaner, sweeping floors and gathering soiled overalls at the end of every shift.
Well, I'm getting very, very short of breath. I've been told by the specialist at the hospital, I've been told by my doctor, I've got angina and chronic bronchitis. I'm down now to tablets, Hexapal, I'm on steroids. I can't honestly see me going back to making work now.
Antimony at Cookson's has been causing concern for years, attracting the attention of local unions and health bodies.
Since the 1960s, the factory inspector reported at least 3 times on the effects of antimony. They've shown that antimony workers have a death rate for lung cancer 3 times and more than you'd expect in Great Britain.
At least half a dozen workers at Cookson's believe their disabilities are caused by antimony, the very chemical from which are generated the toxic gases inhaled by cot death victims, like Anne Diamond's little boy, Sebastian.
I'm investigating a poisoning now. My child was poisoned, or possibly poisoned. He certainly had poison in his body. Whether or not it killed him, I don't know. I would like to know why. And I think if we had known then that it was poison, we would have been able to demand an inquest, and I demand one now. And it's not just for my sake, it's for the sake of hundreds, countless hundreds of other children who may have died from the same cause. We mums and dads need to know why, so that we can prevent it happening again.
Marie Seward helped us to investigate the link between antimony and cot deaths. She'd kept baby Grant's mattress as a memento.
I've kept it for 2 years because I can remember seeing him as he were before he died in that crib. It's hard to explain, but that crib were him. It were his, and I need to really see whether it were actually that mattress that did it.
We had Grant's mattress and tissue samples independently tested. The result, very high levels of antimony in both.
6.6. I would think this is a good result for you, because it means it's not, in no way can you blame yourself for your baby.
Whilst no conclusive proof yet exists that antimony alone killed Grant Seward or any other baby, there's no other logical explanation for the findings of our scientists. Some parents now plan to sue.
Oh, it's a beautiful sunny day and it's the time of year, the time for the Sesame Street.
Our findings have given new hope to Gwyneth Tenney. After her 8-month-old son Ben had died from sudden infant death syndrome, she was accused of deliberately trying to suffocate her baby daughter Anne Garrett.
At 5.5 weeks, she stopped breathing. She continued to have events of stopping breathing for the first 12 months of life, 17 in total. She was placed from an apnea monitor onto a more sophisticated machinery, really. And part of this machinery was an event recorder. And it was on the recording from one of her events that the consultant decided that I was intentionally trying to suffocate my daughter. First pet in the parade is Big
Gwyneth wasn't allowed to take her daughter home from hospital, and Anne Garrett was placed with foster parents. After a protracted legal battle, a court case against Gwyneth was dropped, and she and her husband Ray won back the custody of their child.
We did get her home in November of '92, but under a residence order in my husband's name, which meant he was totally responsible for her care, and I had to be supervised with her to the point of having a lock on the bedroom door.
Following several near cot death incidents, when her daughter Hannah stopped breathing, Sharon Bozier was also accused of trying to kill her own child.
If I wasn't doing it, then I was fabricating the whole thing myself, and therefore I was causing her harm by having her admitted to hospital. The day after her first birthday, they took her away from us, took her into foster care, and then began a 9-month battle to get her back.
Okay.
Yes, darling. It was absolute hell. The day after she was taken, my husband actually called the doctor because I just couldn't cope. There's the only thing I can relate it to, the nearest I can relate it to being like is when my dad died. It was like she died.
We took samples from Hannah's cot and the mattress in her Moses basket. The antimony levels in the basket proved to be very high. Ironically, that was good news, as it was for Gwyneth Tenney, when we tested her daughter's mattress and recorded some of the highest levels of all. You've had this awful accusation hanging over you for a long time. You understand the mattress theory with the antimony and so on. Mm-hmm. What's your reaction to being told now that the antimony in that mattress was at a very high level, about the same as Anne Diamond's?
It's got to be wonderful, because having been accused of harming my one daughter and also doubts raised over my son's death, to be told now that there's actually a cause other than myself, it wasn't me. It's now proved that it's not me.
Inside most cot mattresses are potentially dangerous amounts of antimony. During use, microorganisms react with this and other chemicals to produce poisonous gases. Very little research has been done on antimony compounds, but in America and Europe it's recognized as a cause of cancer, while the gases produced can stop heart and lungs from functioning.
We're talking about antimony with arsenic, which is usually present as a contaminant in it, and really very little has been done on the poisonous effects of these, except that it is known that they are extremely poisonous. For example, these organic forms of arsenic and antimony, in comparison with cyanide, which everybody knows is a dreadful poison, are very, very much more dangerous, but by a factor of 100 or more. So these are some of the most dangerous substances to which anybody, let alone young infants, can be exposed.
Professor Bryce Smith was the man who first alerted the world to the dangers of lead in petrol. At the time, he was unkindly dismissed as a crank, but he was proved right. And he's equally adamant about the gases generated from antimony now.
Not to be technical, they shut down the nervous system, which controls the heart and breathing, all these things. And a baby could die and appear reasonably normal in appearance. Indeed, the literature on the poisoning by anticholinesterase substances is full of how difficult it is to diagnose this effect. They look normal.
And this would partly explain, if it's true, the mystery of SIDS.
Indeed it would, yes, yes.
So what about today's babies, the ones put to sleep every night on antimony-treated mattresses? Are they absorbing the chemical? Once more, we found there was no government research, so we did our own. We tested 31 children in Oxford and 18 in Derby. Our scientists couldn't carry out the most accurate experiments. They would have involved taking tissues from live babies. But even the relatively simple tests we did with hair samples produced worrying results.
I have no doubt that these results are quite reasonably accurate. And from the point of view of the babies, they must be highly significant. Antimony is a toxic element. It's not an essential element by any means. I don't know at what level it becomes important in babies, but it must be undesirable.
To cross-check the results, we not only took hair samples from the children, but also from their mothers and the cot mattresses. So this is to dissolve the hair first of all, so that you can get the
antimony
out. Yeah. Our test showed some babies with antimony levels up to 100 times greater than their mothers.
The mattress is quite low, and yours is quite low, so the general environment is all right. It's just that he certainly picks some up at some time. So one of those older mattresses is causing trouble, so it's a good idea if you destroy the older mattresses, if you will. What's happening is that mattress is beginning to produce some gas. You can use it if you wrap it up. Right. You've been given, I think, some plastic sheet to wrap it up.
Yeah, I have.
Well, do make sure that it's put on very tightly. Okay. It must be firm so that they can't loosen it, obviously.
Right, okay.
But certainly that's been producing some gas, I'm afraid, because the contrast between your results and the baby's results are so different. Your mattress has quite a lot of antimony in it.
Oh, right.
And the baby has a very high level of antimony in it, which means it's been absorbing it. So you have your hair is very low, so we know it's nothing to do with the house. It's actually to do with the cot.
Right.
The link between antimony and cot death victims was first suggested 6 years ago by Barry Richardson. 2 weeks ago, we analysed mattresses and then serum and liver tissue from cot death victims. These samples were examined by Dr. Andrew Taylor from the Robins Institute at the University of Surrey.
We found antimony in high concentrations, and antimony is an agent which we know influences the central nervous system, and the effects of that could be to suppress breathing and lead to cessation of breathing and heart failure.
In 1991, the government's Turner Commission spent more than £250,000 looking at antimony in mattresses and found nothing. But they only did half the job. Unlike the Cook report, they didn't test the tissue of the victims themselves.
We had no access to tissue samples. The results we got on the mattresses didn't indicate that antimony was a problem. And so at that stage, we
felt we had answered the Chief Medical Officer's question, and we had made recommendations, and we took it no further. In retrospect, having seen what the evidence from the Cook report is, I wish we had.
However, Turner did recommend that the use of toxic fire retardants in cot mattresses be reconsidered. The government took no notice.
The theory which Mr. Richardson has put up is really extremely convincing and must not be dismissed in the rather casual manner that the Turner report has done.
Was the Turner report good or bad science?
The Turner report, the kindest thing I can say about it is that it was really rather inadequate. It certainly is not the last word on the subject. We want more work carried out by other people who are at arm's length from political or industrial pressure.
Independent research like ours, which, although it may be limited, does refute suggestions from the government's chief medical officer that levels of detected antimony could have come from almost anywhere or anything in the child's environment.
We went to the supermarket and we bought some full cream milk, and we bought some baby milk powder, and we bought 3 varieties of baby foods. We bought some rusks, we bought a carrot, some bananas, a range of things. We found 11 foods altogether, and we bought some baby shampoo. We brought them back and we did antimony in all of them. And the only thing that we found any antimony in was 2 of the baby foods that contain meat. That's a chicken one and a Bolognese sauce one. And there we found about 15 to 20 parts per billion of antimony. Everything else was less than 10 parts per billion, except for the full cream milk, which was less than 5. It's exactly what you'd expect.
But not what the chief medical officer inferred?
No, I don't know where he got his information from. I'd like to see it.
This week we completed the first test for antimony in living babies. The results are shocking. In Derby, 16% of the babies had extremely high levels of antimony.
Well, I was surprised. I was surprised at how high the babies were relative to their mothers. Mother has had much more time to accumulate antimony. Admittedly, it grows out with the hair, but the average baby was 20 times as high as its mother. It ranged up to 100 times. The average over the range of babies was 3,800 parts per billion. The average mother was 165.
And where did this antimony come from, since, as your other testing showed, it wasn't much evident in the environment?
They don't appear to be eating it. They don't appear to be breathing it from ordinary atmospheres, as it were. Otherwise, mother would be breathing the same.
In Oxford, the results were even worse. Of the 31 babies we tested, 17 of them, that's 58%, showed very high levels of antimony. Disturbing for us, but even more distressing for their mothers.
Your baby has very high antimony, the highest it's been tested.
Is it?
Look at the reading for your baby, 17,000.
Sorry, can you explain that again?
But normally, that's the amount of antimony we've been finding in the mother's hairs, which indicates the amount that's in the household atmosphere from furniture or something like that.
Yeah.
But your baby has 17,000, which is the highest reading that's been found. So you must be careful.
Yeah, we'll do.
Please do.
Yeah.
But you've got a serious problem. It won't affect the baby's health as long as the baby doesn't get affected anymore.
I covered the mattress, but then I was still, there was something told me still not to put her in there. I've taken her out again. I've taken her away from the cot again.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what was telling you was that you were able to detect it. You were able to detect the problem before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. I mean, when we're working on them, we do. But do be careful.
There might be no obvious symptoms, but if we're getting toxic substances transferred to the brain in non-lethal amounts, these could cause, in principle, impairment of learning ability, impairment of behavioural control, if they're getting into the brain. So there's the potential for nasty things to happen.
That's a very high result, I'm afraid, and a very high mattress. So you must cover the mattress up.
Was that? Oh yeah, it would have been the PVC one, so that's a cot mattress. How high was it?
Yours was 6,500, whereas the average is about 2,000. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
the conclusion is obviously that the baby is exposed to a hazard or a risk that the mother is not exposed to, or that babies are particularly susceptible to antimony or arsenic or whatever it is that's causing the problem. And if that's the case, then there's only one solution to the problem, and that is to take these fire retardants right out of the environment in which the baby sleeps.
Well, the cot is also high, so do make sure that the cot is covered, the cot mattress is covered until your mattress is replaced.
Right.
Your hair value is very low, so there's nothing wrong with the house. You know, it's not in the general atmosphere, it's something connected with the baby. When I tell you that your reading was 45 and the baby was 5,100, you'll see the contrast.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that because I want you to be careful.
I certainly feel very angry against the Department of Health at the moment. I feel that as a parent, I've been hoodwinked into believing that they thoroughly investigated the mattress theory and then dismissed it with integrity. They clearly didn't. There's a huge question still to be answered, and I'm angry that they didn't answer it 3 years ago. This antimony should not be in our children. And even if they question the science that you're putting in front of them, why not ask the other question, which is more relevant, I feel, which is, are our children safe? Have they got a poison inside them? What's causing it? And take away the possible causes before proving them. Take away the mattresses and the fire retardant. Let's try something else and see if the cot death rate goes down. Why not?
Why not indeed? The government could have done it years ago. It could still do it now.
Well, I'm afraid it's been another absolutely classic response by the government, really caught out on something fundamentally extremely serious. They are very embarrassed, and they come out using absolutely any methods to discredit the argument, to fudge it. They won't indulge in rational discussion, they won't do the right thing, but they will do everything they can to discredit the other side in the hope that somehow the whole thing can be yet again shelved. It's just the latest move in the cover-up by the government on this subject, which has been going on for 5 years.
Yesterday, the government acted upon our research and appointed Lady Limerick, chairman of the British Red Cross Society, to head a committee of experts to examine our evidence of antimony links with cot deaths. But already some scientists are warning this committee of experts actually lacks the relevant expertise.
This is an environmental and toxicological problem, and unfortunately the new group doesn't have the necessary expertise. The information that has been issued recently by the government indicates that they don't understand the problem at all. I hope that this new group will not be as ineffective as the Turner group was several years ago, because every time they delay, more babies die.
Our vital advice to parents remains unchanged. If you can't replace your mattress with one free from fire retardants, firmly wrap the one you've got in heavy-duty polythene, fastening it underneath with strong adhesive tape, making sure it can't be tampered with by the baby or older children, and then cover it with the usual cot linen, and follow the back-to-sleep guidelines. Some final advice for the government from Anne Diamond.
They should withdraw all fire retardants containing antimony from anything anywhere near our children, particularly cot mattresses. They should be more interested in investigating this mattress theory than denying the fact that you have put evidence in front of them. They should stop hoodwinking us parents into believing that they know best, because very clearly at the moment we have a right to have our questions answered, and answered properly.
Once more, the government refused to be questioned by the Cook Report. It's taken them 2 weeks to come up with the idea of a committee. 2 weeks in which another 20 children might well have died. How many more will die before it reaches a decision?